So in this video, we're going to be setting up Webpack dev server with hot module reloading. So we're back in the guides again, under documentation, guides, and we're under this development tab over here. And if you click right here, it says using Webpack dev server. This is the section that we're at. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to install Webpack dev server with npm. So let's run that. There's another thing we're going to need while we're here. Might as well just install it now. And that's this plugin that they've got here in this config file called HTML Webpack plugin. So what this does essentially is this is a plugin that's going to automatically generate our index.html file. So that way when we run our builds in our dev server, Webpack has something to host in the dev server. I'll explain a little bit more about what this is doing once we actually install it. So go back to your terminal, and now we're going to install, let me just clean this up a bit, npm install --save--dev html-webpack plugin. Let's get that installed too. And then once this is installed, I'll show you how to configure everything. So if you take a look at the docs, you'll see they've got some additional stuff in here. So here's our Webpack plugin, so we need to include it from our npm modules. They've also got some other things in here. There's this mode key called development, and this is something new that was introduced in Webpack 4. We're going to be covering this in greater detail later on in the course, but essentially this tells Webpack for the different environments that you're in. In this case, we're in development. There's also one for production. There's also this new thing right here, this dev server. This is what tells Webpack this tells Webpack dev server where to serve up the files, and they're all going to be coming from that dist directory. And then we also need to include the HTML Webpack plugin down here. So let's go back to our config file and let's start setting all this stuff up. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a mode key, and we're going to call this development. And then underneath our entry file, the order of this isn't super important, but you can just follow along and see what I'm doing. We're going to add this dev server object, or key, which is an object. And then we're going to do content base dist. So again, like I said earlier, this is telling Webpack dev server where to serve up our files from. So in development, it's going to serve everything up from memory, so it's not going to output to this dist folder here. That's only when you're doing like a production build. The next thing we need to do is create this plugins key, and the plugins is going to be an array, and it's going to be new HTML Webpack plugin, like this. You can also pass in an object and give it something like a title. So we'll just give it development. Now if you notice, I have my VS Code will automatically pull stuff in when I save it. So if your text editor doesn't do it, just make sure you've got HTML Webpack plugin and you're requiring the HTML Webpack plugin here. Now the next thing we need to do is set up our dev script. So if we come down here, we're going to create a dev command, and this command is going to be webpack dev server --open. And so we run dev, it's going to run the server, and this flag, this --open, will automatically open up a browser window for us. So let's go back and run npm run dev. Cool, so it opens up a new window, and if we look into the console, we see our hello from Webpack. That's coming from our index.js, and you can see that we've got live reloading enabled. So this is hot module, this WDS is Webpack dev server, and hot module reloading is enabled. So if I come back to the text editor, and we do hello from Webpack dev server, and we save that, it's going to automatically update for us. So it doesn't refresh the page, it just injects it for us automatically. So we're all set up with the Webpack dev server and hot module reloading. In the next video, we're going to be installing and configuring Babel.